All right, everybody, I think we're about ready to start here. Sound like you're having a good time socializing and catching up with your friends. So welcome to our first meeting of 2025. Can you believe it's 2025 already? So we have a great program in store for tonight. Mary Presson Roberts over here is with us, and her presentation on following your own path and her journey in the art and photography world will be presented tonight. So welcome to our meeting tonight, Mary. I've heard Mary speak several times. We belong to a photography club together, and so I know she's going to do a great job tonight. So thank you to everybody who brought refreshments tonight. I think y'all did a good job. We had some good stuff in there. So, and thank you to Joe Alford, who put it all together and was able to get everybody to sign up for food. So let's see, I'd like to introduce our new members and guests. So let's start with new members. Are there new members here tonight? Okay, can you tell us your name and what kind of art you like to do?
I'm a sculptor and I work with scratch board.
Okay. Well, great to have you here, Kelly. Any other new members? Yes. Okay, well, that's great. Well, welcome, Jenny. Any other new members here? How about guests? Anybody bring a guest tonight? Okay, so a lot of home folks tonight. So, all right, well, just a reminder for those who've had their artwork on display in our TAP gallery. Remember, our TAP gallery stands for The Artist Place, and is just in the foyer of the Crooked Creek Park here. So every month we have a new theme of artwork that we bring in. So if you had something in the gallery over the last month, make sure and take it home with you tonight. Our new theme for pieces coming in tonight is Scenes from the Past. So as you look over the artwork that people have brought in, that's what the theme is, Scenes from the Past. So hang up your piece if you haven't already. There's not going to be a theme for next month, as we'll be bringing our artwork for the annual juried show. So starting on February 22nd, we'll all be bringing our art pieces for the annual juried show, and that's what will hang in the foyer, as well as the whole building, all 150 or more pieces. So we all look forward to that. So the annual juried show committee has been working really hard to get ready for the biggest event of our year. They're still in need of volunteers to help with the event. So we've got some sign-up sheets over there on the table. If you can help at all by volunteering, there's lots of different places you can volunteer. We need help setting up for the reception. We need help cleaning up afterwards, setting up for the area that we'll have our awards ceremony in. We need help with bringing food and also helping with pickup day for the artwork. So lots of places to plug in. We're also looking for someone who would be able to put together the slideshow for the awards ceremony. So if that's something that you feel that you could do, please let me know and I'll get you in touch with somebody who will, help you along with that. But we need somebody to help do that. So you can also go online. If you don't sign up here, you can go online and look under events and the annual juried show to sign up to help. You just sign your name on the sheets on the table. You can also call our show chairman, who is Bobby Sorensen. She wasn't able to come tonight, but you can let her know if you'd like to sign up for something. Karen, I think you wanted to give a couple of announcements.
One thing that we do need for the juried show is money. I have a sign-up sheet I'm going to pass around for members to donate to the show. You can do it by sending a check. You can do it online. And also, we still have a lot of businesses that can be contacted. If you know of someone, a business that you think would support the arts, they could even have a sponsor one of the awards. They would get their advertisement in our brochures and on all our publicity. I have papers and letters that I can send to you that you can bring to the businesses. I'm going to send that around as well. If you see something that's not, hasn't donated yet, you can contact them. Or if there's somebody that you know, I mean, I asked my dentist and my dentist sent in $200. So anybody who you would think would be conducive to supporting the juried show for the Crooked Creek Art League. It is our 30th show this year. That's quite impressive, I think, for an art league. So anyhow, I'm going to pass around the sheet. I'm going to start at the back and bring it up, and hopefully we'll get some more donations to come in. You write whatever you want, dear. $5 or 500 is good. Okay. That's whatever you can afford. Yes. Every little bit helps.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, every little bit helps, whether you can donate yourself a little bit, or if you know a business that can donate, just help be our people that get out there and solicit for money to help our league and to put on this great show. So I hope all of you have been working on the artwork that you'll be bringing to the show. Remember, the prospectus as well as the pertinent dates are all on the website. So keep in mind that the deadline for registering for the show is February 20th. So that's going to sneak up before you know it. So also check out the watercolor workshop that will be held in February the 27th and 28th with our lead judge, Russell Jewell. So that's kind of in, that's coordinating with our juried show. So all the details for that workshop can be found on the website as well. We have several other workshops that you might be interested in that are coming up in the future here. January 24th and 25th is Color and Landscape with Tammy Papa. Pastel, oil, and acrylic are welcome for that one. February 1st, this was one that was rescheduled from January, I believe, when we had bad weather. Nature journaling with Ellen Fishburne. And I think we only have a couple spots left, so hurry and sign up if you would like to do that one. March 21st and 22nd, Mastering Water and Reflections in Your Landscape Paintings with Michael Story. And that is for oil or acrylic. April 11th and 12th is Landscape Painting with David Dunlop. And always just check out all the workshops and the details and everything about it on the website. So the prospectus is also available on the website for our Spring Irmo Library exhibition. Registration will begin on March 1st for that, and drop-off for the artwork will be on April 26th. Remember, this is a non-juried show, so it's kind of for fun. Get your artwork out there. You could possibly sell some of it, and it's on display for the community to see. So think about registering some of your pieces for the library exhibition. And all your preparations of artwork start to think about what you might want to bring to the annual May contest. I know May seems like it's maybe far out there, but it comes before you know it. You got to start getting ready. So if you'd like to participate in that, you'll bring one piece of artwork along with an easel to display it on. And the members present at our meeting, this will be held at our meeting in May. So everybody present will get to go around and look at all the paintings and photography and vote for their favorites. So the theme this year for all the artwork will be childhood memories. So that's a really broad topic, so I think you'll be able to find something that sparks your interest to start painting or looking for There's a lot of things that associate with childhood memories. So anyway, ribbons will be awarded for first through third place, and then all the artwork will remain on display in the TAP gallery throughout the summer. And this is also a non-juried show. It's just that all of us members together will be voting for their favorites. Just wanted to let you know, at our last board meeting, it was decided we would go to an online-only registration for our members, as well as for membership renewal of dues. Most of us already register online, but this will help us in keeping track a little better when dues are received. Our nominating committee will soon be working to fill positions on our board, our committees, and our service and support team. There's many different types of positions. Remember, they're all volunteer that we'll be looking to fill for the next league year. If you'd be willing to be part of our team, please contact me and I'll be able to put you in touch with someone on our nominating committee. We strive to place volunteers in positions that they are best suited for and areas that, excuse me, they would enjoy. So please consider what you might be able to offer the league by being a volunteer next year. It takes an army to do all the many things we do. If you just look at the list of committees and board positions and service and support team, everywhere from refreshments to getting emails out to, I mean, there's just lots of stuff that is involved in running our whole group. So it takes an army. So if you're interested at all in helping out, please let me know, or someone on the board, and we'll point you in the right direction. We'd love to have you on our team. So right now I'd like to call on Lytha Nicholson to come up and talk about a possible opportunity that has come up. And then after that, Barbara's going to come up and tell us a couple more things. Was there any other announcements from the group before these two people come up? Okay, well, let's have Lytha come up and tell us what she'd like to tell us.
Okay, this is an opportunity for everybody to expose your artwork and everything. I'm looking for people that would like to open their studio for a community tour of artist studios. You're excited, right? I belong to the Chapin Women's Club, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but all we do is raise money to give back to the community. That's the whole purpose of this. So it would be for a fundraiser, and I was involved in this when I lived in Florida, and I'd love to get it started and have it continue because it was great fun. It's great exposure for the artists because people come through and they see your work and they see you. So if any of you are interested in opening up your studio, and don't think, oh, my place doesn't look good enough, because artists have funky places. So the funkier and the messier, the better. So see me after the meeting if you're willing to let your studio be shown. Okay. I'm sorry.
When?
Well, we're just in the planning stages because the first thing we have to know is that we have some studios. So that's as far as we've gone. I don't even know. We talked about it at the meeting and they just said, well, are there enough studios to do this? And I said, I think maybe that's the first question. So yeah, I guess summer would be too hot. So my guess would be late spring or early fall. Any other questions?
Downtown Columbia does an open studios event every year, and it's in April. Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that
So
again.
Downtown Columbia has an open studio.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Well,
It's called open.
Is Open Studio the same as?
It's the same sort of thing, but it's downtown. And
Okay.
So not very many people from out here participated because it's so far.
It's too far out, right,
So I
right.
think it's a nice idea to do one
Okay.
out here, but
Great, we can talk to people.
Conflict with them.
Yeah, right. I can talk to people and get some information. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks. See me after the meeting if you're willing to share your studio.
Okay, I have two quick things, but first I have a question. On behalf of Deborah, who made the bacon cracker things? Michael. Oh, well, see Michael. She wants to know how to make them because she loves them. Okay. Well, there. Now I've made a connection. That's good. EMI, come on now. Okay, I got two things real quick. One, over here on the table, there are little, there, Vanna's going to show you. We have little canvases and registration forms. There is an annual fundraiser charity event that happens in downtown Columbia called Artists for Africa. And they raise all kinds of funds to help sponsor and promote the exposure to the arts and opportunities for arts of all flavors in Africa. Specifically, Kenya is most of it. But anyway, they do this every year in February. And so the way it works is they give you a canvas. It's free to you. They ask you to paint something on it or do whatever, but decorate it and make it into something fabulous, a little piece of artwork, a little 4x6 piece of artwork, turn it in with the registration form. You're donating it to them. They're going to auction them off. And they have a lot of these that get done every year. It's a really, really fun event. Every artist can come to the event for free and see all of the other artwork and bid and buy. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. The canvases are free. They're over there. You're running out of time because it is in February, but if you can, February 20th is the reception. Yes. Yes. They'll a couple days before. It's not, but you have to, it's coming up quick. But if you're interested in those, grab 1, 2, however many you think you will actually do and use and can submit back to them for the charity event. That would be great. So grab them on the table when you're heading out. Make sure you get a registration form for each canvas that you have. Okay. So that's one thing. The other thing is we have an opportunity for another piece of community artwork in Chapin, sorry. Y'all know where the Zestos used to be over here on Columbia Avenue? Well, it's been acquired. So there's going to be a new restaurant going in there, which is great. And the fellow that is putting the new restaurant together, and he's deep in the process of doing that right now, the side of the building that faces S&S is a big cinder block wall. It has a couple windows cut into it, but it's a big cinder block wall. He wants that wall to turn it into a mural. So we're looking for people who are interested in doing a mural. And the board has voted to support this by putting some funds toward helping make that happen for him and for the artist both. And he's going to pay some funds for it as well. So if you have any interest or desire in doing a mural, a big pretty mural, let me know. We'll be getting some information out to everybody, but I think it's a great opportunity. He's really, really excited about doing it. So let me know if that might be you. I have no idea who I'm turning this over to now. Song and dance. Okay. I'm turning it over to Stephanie.
Real quick, please think about becoming a treasurer next year. We need to have a treasurer. My husband said, no more. So, and we've had quite a lot of discussion over this, and he said, no more. So I'm looking for another treasurer to take my place, and I will be more than happy to help them with everything. So.
Thank you. And if you know of somebody you'd like to nominate for that, we will have a nominating committee. So you can talk to Yvonne about that, and she can get you in touch with the nominating committee for those positions. We'll have a few positions open next year. I want to introduce to you Mary Presson Roberts. We're so glad she could be with us tonight. She is a visual artist, author, and educator based in Tegakay, South Carolina. Did I say that right? Tegakay. Okay. Mary uses her camera and digital tools to focus on the beauty in this world, as well as to explore her thoughts and emotions associated with life events and concerns. Mary received her bachelor's degree from Winthrop University, Rock Hill, South Carolina, and her master's degree from the Citadel, Charleston, South Carolina. Mary has been an educator in the Carolinas for more than 3 decades. In 2015, Mary combined her passions for photography and education. She leads photography workshops and photo tours, provides private photography instruction, and gives inspirational presentations of her photographic journey. Mary has a diverse interest in photographic subjects. Mary's exhibited works in the United States and internationally. She has been published in Our Magnificent Planet by Lenswork, Nature's Best Photography International Awards, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, Photo Nostrum magazine. She has also had a portfolio of her work published in Lenswork magazine. So we're going to now hear from Mary, and the title of her presentation is Follow Your Own Path, and she'll tell you more about that. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you so much for letting me share a little bit about my journey. I'm a photographer. But my mother was a mixed media artist, and so I was really raised being immersed in art. I hear a lot of feedback.
Yeah, a little bit, I don't think so.
If you step this way away from that speaker.
Okay, better? Is that better? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my journey as a photographer. And as I share about my journey, I would like you to think about your own journey, because we're all along a creative path and everybody's doing their own journey. And I just want to share a little bit about mine. So I was an elementary school teacher for 33 and a half years, primarily first grade for that whole time. And it was a very rewarding way to spend my career working with young people. In about 2008, I started my journey with photography. I'd always been interested in photographs and taking pictures, but it wasn't until 2008 that I really started learning how to take control of the camera. So as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the paths I've taken, and all of our paths are unique. So the very beginning of my path, I wanted to learn about digital photography. And at the time, it was 2008. My husband's a realtor, and I didn't have a whole lot of money for extras at that time. It was a very difficult time. And so I was trying to figure out a way. I wanted to learn, there was a class at a botanical garden near me, and I wanted to learn how to use a digital camera. And I just couldn't justify the purchase of a digital camera. So I contacted the instructor, and he told me entry-level DSLR that I could purchase and use a lens that I already had. So I thought about how I would do that, and I went to my closet, and there was this card that my father had given me years before. And inside that card was a gold coin taped to it. And he gave it to me one year for Christmas. And he told me when the time was right, I would know what to do with the coin. So I took that coin to a place that bought gold and found out that it was within $25 the cost of the entry-level DSLR. So I traded in the coin and I bought my first camera, and my life has never been the same. So I'm going to talk a little bit about things that have helped me along my creative path. So I know this artists' supplies are a big deal. Photographers are obsessed with gear, what kind of gear you can get. And I'm not a very technical person, so people go about getting gear in different ways and researching. But what I did is I went to the website of an instructor that I highly regarded, and I looked to see what kind of gear he had. And I said, well, if it's good enough for Kevin Adams, it's certainly good enough for Mary Presson Roberts. And that's how I started picking things to buy. I've learned a little along the way and have a more researching type of way to buy my gear, but that's how I started out. My family has been tremendously supportive of me, and I'm sure as artists, you know how important that is. So this is my husband, Randy, and he will do so many things to help me with my photography. This is my son, Jeremy, and he's now 28 and living his best adult life. But when he was still living at home, I could say, Jeremy, I need you to put this flower in your mouth and stand in the store frame and let me use flash to see if I can have a black background. And we would go on what I called family adventures. And family adventures included getting up at 2 a.m, getting in the car, driving somewhere, watching the sunrise, exploring all day, and coming home. And I have such fond memories of these family adventures. Now, sometimes Randy and Jeremy weren't quite as enthusiastic as I was during these family adventures. So this is a sunrise at Roan Mountain, Botany Bay, but always so willing. Again, this is Randy. And if I say, hey, I need you to come in the home studio, and so I can see if I can throw this cape and capture it. And this was our dog, Maui, and she was always a very willing model as well. So one of the joys I found is the friendships I've made along the way. And I can see from the group here, the friendships that are here. So this is Joe P. Spikes, and he was my very first friend in photography. Now, I'm kind of an introvert, but Joe has never met a stranger. So I met him on my first workshop, and we remain friends to this day. We just went to Germany on a river cruise. And this is Joe and his wife, Barbara, and we enjoyed that time in December together. And I've made such wonderful friends since I've picked up my camera. Now, as a nature photographer, I started out mainly in nature. You're so focused in on getting the shot, what's in front of you. But I want to say that in photography and in art, that you should include your people in your work. So I started really working to include the people in my photographs. One time years ago, my family went on a wonderful trip, something I wanted to do all my life, to Hawaii. And I got to see amazing events and things. But it's this picture that's my favorite, of my child just being himself. And a trip out west, and there was just so much to see, but it's the pictures with the people in them that really are the ones that touch my heart and that I will always go back to. So I went to the Grand Canyon for the first time, and I'd never been there before. And I really thought there'd be like guardrails or something to keep you safe. And I was just amazed. And it was just so beautiful, but it's the pictures with the people in them that are the ones that really take me back. Now, this is Sandstone Falls. This is in Virginia. This moment, the fall foliage was great. The light was beautiful. But this is my favorite picture of Sandstone Falls with my son and his then girlfriend, now wife, Abby. Yellowstone. But it's the people pictures that take me back. And Maui. Now, this is Esteto Falls. This is located in someone's backyard, and for years they allowed people access to this beautiful waterfall. It has changed hands, so it is not accessible any longer, but it's one of the prettiest waterfalls I've experienced. And I love this picture when I took my friend Tangi from Florida. This is my lifelong friend Dina, and this is in her happy place at the beach. And I had a wonderful friend, Chris Almarini, who would get up. He lived in Winston-Salem. I live in South Carolina. We had very similar tolerance for what we would do. We'll get up at 2, we'll meet in this place, we'll shoot for this amount of time, then we'll go eat. And this was a magical morning where we had Roan Mountain pretty much to ourselves. And we photographed and we had a great time. And I've always loved this picture. Unfortunately, I lost my friend Chris 2 years ago. He had a very short battle with cancer. And it just makes this picture all the more precious to me. This is my friend Mike in his studio in Rock Hill. Now, I mentioned that my mother was an artist. So this is my mother, and this is a self-portrait she did in a journal of hers. So she incorporated people into her work. And then she did a portrait of me in one of her journal pages. And we went to a sunflower field one time, and she came home and she took the snapshots from that trip, and she created this collage. Oops, I'm sorry. I went way too fast. Okay. So here, this is a picture that she took of when I was at a Sunday school picnic. This was just a couple of weeks ago, obviously. And then she took this and she made this collage. So I was just immersed in watching her work and seeing the beautiful things she made. And this was after my son and my mother and I went to Daniel Stowe Botanical Garden. And she put this together with some snapshots from that trip. So I find when I'm out photographing in nature, especially, that I feel very centered, spiritual. more so calm than any other time. And I'm sure when you're creating your art, often you are in the zone and just a really quiet place. I learned that as a photographer, I need to really keep myself in good health if I can. So this was the amount of steps I took one day, close to 17,000 steps. But because I took those steps with my gear, I was able to go to the channels, and I got to hike up here and photograph this beautiful area. But the most important reason I found that I need to keep physically fit is because I'm traveling with photographers. And while I'm taking pictures, sometimes they're taking pictures of me. And often I look at them and figure I need to revisit the whole Weight Watchers plan. So to do my best work as a photographer, I've had to learn perseverance. So many times when I got up at 2 in the morning and got in the car and drove places, I would arrive to spectacular conditions and I would be rewarded for my efforts. And everything just seemed to fall into place. And I would take pictures that I was really happy with. But I found that that's not always the case. So Botany Bay is located near Charleston, and it is a beautiful place. You can get on the beach and do photography, but it is gated. And one time we drove our hour from Charleston to Botany Bay, and we got to the gate, and we waited and we waited and we waited for it to open, and it never did. So my sunrise picture of Botany Bay that morning looks like this. Another time that I had to really persevere, Roan Mountain has a beautiful place in June. The rhododendron are blooming. And as a female photographer, I don't like to hike by myself in the mountains with all that gear. So I couldn't figure out what to do because I didn't have friends who were available. So at that time, I did what anybody in my position would do, and I paid my child $50 to go with me to Roan Mountain to hike up to the top so I could take sunrise pictures. He was 6 feet. It was awesome. So we went up there and everything was going according to plan till we pulled in the parking lot, and then it was just socked in fog. We could barely see the trail. So this is my sunrise picture that morning. There's my son. It was also freezing. We were inappropriately dressed. And we waited and we waited and we waited, and the fog never cleared. So I went back home, and then I had friends who I didn't have to pay the next day. And I went back. You can see the flowers were just gorgeous. And the next day, the conditions were more favorable. So in Charleston, I love to go and photograph the azaleas. I go as much as I can to Magnolia Plantation and Gardens. It's stunning. So one spring I went 3 separate weekends. I was still working, so I could only do it on the weekends. And I found that you can't always get what you want. When you can get what you want, you see beauty like this and this. But I went one time and things just weren't coming together and things weren't falling into place. So I just took a lot of different pictures and I put them together to make this composite. And it made me a little happy, like I had spent time well. And then the next weekend, this was my azalea picture because the azaleas were dead or something bad was going on. So this was my azalea picture at Magnolia. And the third weekend was even worse. So I went out to the beach. So these are my azalea pictures from that weekend. So I found some things that I really need to do in order to do the best photography I can. I have this quote that was in one of Edward Weston's daybooks, and it's by Alfred Stieglitz. My last message to you is to work, seek, and experiment. So as a photographer, one thing I need to do is photograph. When I was working for a while, I just photographed on the weekends. And then I came up with a project that allowed me to work every single day. And I also need to process, and that's working with the images on the computer. And I was really surprised, not being a very technical person, at how much I really enjoy the computer work as much as I do capturing the images. And I need to learn. Always, I want to learn to develop my craft. I love this quote: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And throughout my journey, I've had the perfect teacher at just the right time. My first teacher in photography was Dave Kelly, and he was that instructor at the Botanical Garden. And Dave Kelly taught me such great foundational skills. Kevin Adams. Kevin Adams is a wonderful, known for waterfalls and night photography. And Kevin really taught me the importance of using a tripod early on, making sure I use my tripod. But most important from Kevin is he's taught me the fact that when I'm going out, I say, I'm going to photograph. I don't say I'm going to photograph azaleas or I'm going to go photograph ice. I'm just going to go photograph, and then I see what's there to photograph. Brian Peterson is one of the most creative people I've ever met. This is Brian, and he is just wild. I learned from him first in the books he wrote. I've been to seminars. I've been to a couple of workshops with him, and he is just amazing. I'm going to go to Iceland on a workshop with Brian before he retires.
Yeah, that's set up.
Pardon? Yes. In November. Yes. Thank you.
He just went in October and there are waterfalls every 2 steps. So, I mean,
It's beautiful. Thank you. So what he has taught me is the importance of color and just having a respect for creativity. Now, Les Saucier is my mentor in photography. And the way I met Les is I entered a competition up in my area, and it was with this owl, and I ended up winning first prize for this. And this was early on in my photography journey. And so the juror was Les Saucier. He wasn't there, I didn't meet him. So I took my prize money and I purchased a workshop with Les. And he really literally took me under his wing, taught me so many things. And has just been, he taught me photography, and he helped me with being a photography educator, helped me with my first start. He was a well-respected photography educator and had me lead a photo tour with him. So when he called me one day and he said, Mary, he said, I'm getting married. I said, yes. He said, Mary, you're invited. Yes. He said, Mary, you're the photographer. So I have photographed one and only one wedding. It was my first and last. But Les has just been a tremendous joy and help along my journey. And from Les, the thing I've learned the most is the art of planting seeds, because he always said, I'm planting seeds. And I hope that I am able to plant seeds along my path as well. Now, Alistair Nichol is another teacher that I've had along my path. And the way I met him is I was photographing with Randy on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And he got up on the rocks. This isn't him, but he had his camera and got up in front of me. He's like, can I stand here and take some pictures? So at this point, as a photographer, you have choices. Okay, your choices are, dude, you're in my shot. Or not, as long as you don't mind me using you as foreground, which is what I did. And we exchanged information. And then I got to know him and started taking his workshops. So this is Alistair up on Hawksbill. I would never do that. And his teaching partner, Tommy White. And so I got to know both Alistair and Tommy and went on many of their workshops and experienced so many wonderful things. This is again at Hawksbill, Charleston. Blue Ridge Parkway. And what I learned from them is it's worth the effort. I would call my husband on these workshops. I'm like, I have never been this tired in my entire life. And he's like, you said that the last time you were with them. But they taught me it's worth the effort and to really have a sense of adventure. Our State Magazine is a beautiful publication that is put out of places and things in North Carolina. Now, I credit Tommy White for getting my picture into Our State Magazine. And by saying I got my picture in Our State Magazine, this is not my photograph. The reason I say Tommy got my picture in Our State Magazine is if you look right here at the top of the waterfall, you will see me. And this is one of my favorite portraits of me because it has such a slimming quality. Alistair and Tommy taught with Athena, and I met Athena during a workshop in the Outer Banks. And we became fast friends. I just recently took another trip with Athena in the Outer Banks, and then we're going to join Tommy in Death Valley in February. So, but Athena taught me how to instruct with such dignity and grace. And I just was so appreciative of all she added to my journey. I belonged to a learning community called the Arcanum. That was an online community, master apprentice. It was one of the best learning situations I've ever been in. And Andy Wheeler was one of my instructors. And he taught me the importance of using technology and having a web presence. He helped us all build our websites. And it's the website I have to this day. Robin Griggs Wood was another one of my masters in the Arcanum. And I really enjoyed playing with my photographs. And when I started doing composites, people kind of tried to talk me out of it. Oh, people will not really understand what you're doing. People will get confused if you're doing these different things. But I liked it and I kept at it. So always follow your passion in your own journey because it is your journey. So this is something I did for a scavenger hunt for the word wig, and sometimes it takes people a while to find me in there. My son hates this picture. I love it. Oop. And so sometimes you have to add even something to Magnolia Plantation and Garden. So Robin gave me the freedom to experiment, and I'm so happy that she did. So Ansel Adams has been one of my teachers. I've not met Ansel Adams in person, but I did meet him in this book. This is an amazing book. And this book really set me free because it really showed me that I can learn from so many people who are no longer alive. So I was so impressed with this book that I decided and taught my husband into making our summer vacation that year, the Ansel Adams tour. And not to put my tripod where Ansel Adams stood, but I figured out where Ansel Adams' work was going to be exhibited up and down the East Coast that year. So we went to exhibits, and then we photographed interesting places. By we, I mean me, as far as photographing. Randy's very supportive. So these are some of the pictures I took during the Ansel Adams tour. We went to Williamsburg, Longwood Gardens, Cape May, New Jersey, and Montauk, New York. And the reason we went to Montauk is because my husband said, you know, I'd like to go to Montauk, New York. And I thought, you know, if we're planning this whole vacation over my Ansel Adams tour, you should probably go to at least one place that you would like to. So Montauk. And while we were in a restaurant in Montauk, I saw that there was lavender growing. There was a lavender farm, and I'd never been to one. So we went to a lavender farm. And at one point, my husband was carrying this basket. He said, and I took his picture. He said, if anyone ever sees this picture of me holding this basket, he said, I'm not helping you anymore. So I'm not going to show you the picture of him, but I bet you can envision it in your mind. On the way back, we did a quick trip to Atlantic City. It was less than 12 hours and it was way too much for me. And then Chincoteague, one of my favorite places on the way back. So I'm always learning lessons. One of the lessons I've learned is to compete. Competitions, lots of artists and photographers do competitions, but that's not the type of competing I'm talking about. I've learned that I need to compete with myself. So one year I did this, I love sunflowers, and I did the sunflower swirl, and I didn't like it very much. So the next year I did it and I liked it a little better. So I always am trying to compete with myself to take myself that next step. Okay, snakes in the driveway. So when I went to my first Kevin Adams workshop, we had to take work to be critiqued. And I took my work and I had a great weekend the whole time. And the last day was the critique and they showed the work. And I was really glad it didn't happen till the last day, because if it happened before that, I really would have been intimidated by the people that I was learning with. So snakes in the driveway, this was my very best picture at that time. And if I were competing with where I am today, that wouldn't be a fair competition. So I just want you to think about taking yourself that next step, your next step. So as a photographer, I've learned I need to be honest. That red leaf, that wasn't there. It was lying peacefully on the ground, close by. That owl was not in that tree. The owl was at the Raptor Center and the tree was in Congaree Forest. Beatrice. This leaf was not red. This is the scene as I saw it. And then I just turned it into what I wanted to. So this I call Gift from the Sea. This was at Chincoteague. And I had gotten that starfish from a gift shop. And I put it in there and I would try and take a picture and it would go and I'd chase it and stick it in there. And I took this picture and almost immediately after I took it, the sea came and took my gift store sea star and took it back out to the sea. So I worked on it and I finally figured out a way to make my sea stars stay flat. So if you get your husband to get a drill and make some holes through it and you can jam those nails, those things will just stay and model for you the whole time. So I've learned I need to be flexible. So I had a group of friends and we're trying to figure out where we're going to photograph. And our choices were to go up to the mountains or to go to the Columbia Zoo or to go to Charleston to Magnolia. But then I saw on social media that at Gibbs Garden, the daffodils were blooming. So we decided to go there. At Gibbs Garden, they are so helpful that they even put signs up so you can find the daffodils. There are literally millions of daffodils there. And so we went and we're so happy that we did. It's in Ball Ground, Georgia. It's spectacular in spring and fall. I've learned that you need to take risks. So when I went out west with my family, we were going to go to Horseshoe Bend. I always wanted to go there. I was doing some light reading on the way. So when we got to Horseshoe Bend, my son Jeremy photographed it. The light was beautiful. This is Jeremy's picture. The light was beautiful. It was just perfect. Conditions were right. But I'd been reading that book about death in the canyon. So this is my picture of Horseshoe Bend. I've gotten a little bit better about taking risks since then. So one of the risks I took is when I was on that journey with the online learning community, I got to know people online and they said, hey, do you want to go to Maine and share a house? And I thought, go with strangers for a week and share a house. And it really was kind of out of my comfort zone, but I did. And we went to Cathy and we spent a week and photographed. And it was just fabulous. We had a great time. We all got along. It was great. I knew them, but not in a in-person type of way. And I'm so glad I did. Since we had that trip, the same group, we went to Yellowstone one year and we went to Michigan another year. So I'm just so thankful that I took that risk. Camping on Capers Island. So there's a group of photographers and they said, okay, we're going to go camp on Capers. We're going to photograph. And Capers Island, I'm not a big camping person. And Capers Island is pretty much beach and trees and ocean, and that's it. And so I kept looking at their pictures. I can't do that. And one year I decided I'm going to do that. And so I went. I've gone on this camping trip now twice, and it was just fabulous. And I'm so thankful that I took the chance and went camping. So my friend Larry, who's another lifelong friend, we've been friends since we were 10, lives in Israel. And in 2019, I went to visit him in Israel, and I was very nervous about it. I'm a nervous international traveler, and I have all kinds of things built up in my head of things that can go wrong. But I went. And this is Larry. And it was just so fabulous, and things were going so smoothly. This is the Wailing Wall. This is near his home, a market, the Dead Sea. And everything worked really well until we were going to go into Jordan, and we were at the border, and we had to rent a car to get from his house there. It was really, really hot. And we were at the border, and you go through and you put your belongings on a thing like you do at the airport. And so I was going through and I'm kind of nervous. And the guy at the desk, he's like, I need to see the cameras. And so I had with me, I had a camera body and I had a couple of lenses. One was a longer lens. And so I'm like, okay, so this is a 24-70. And he's like, what's it for? And I'm like, and then he says, oh, he kept saying, what millimeter, what millimeter? So then he got to my big lens. He's like, what millimeter? And I said, it's an 80-400. He's like, we have a problem. And I was like, what? He said, you can't take that lens. So I'm thinking, I'm like, what am I going to do? We've got the rental car. We'll have to cross back out. We'll have to put it there. It's 150 degrees. It'll be dead if I leave it here. I know what to do. I usually don't think quickly on my feet. I was in a panic. I got out my phone and I said, oh, no. This is my Instagram. I take pretty pictures. I said, see this rhododendron? I took this with that lens. No problem. And I got to take my lens with me. And because of that, I got to go and experience Jordan with my friend Larry. We went to Wadi Rum, Petra at night, and in the daytime. It was just fabulous. So I'm very thankful that I've gotten over my fears to do things that I may not have otherwise done. Early on, I did a mentorship teaching others, and it helped free me up to see my passions of photography and teaching going hand in hand. So one of the things I had to find out is how to make photographs with impact. And I know that you are looking to make your artwork with impact. And I found that I need to photograph subjects I love. I love feathers. I just think they're magnificent. This is one of my all-time favorite pictures. It's a rooster at Magnolia Plantation. And so every time I get the opportunity, I photograph feathers. I call this oblivious because he was in all his glory and she's strutting right by. I love sunflowers. My mom took me to my first sunflower field and I've gone every year since. I just can't get enough of them. And every time I go, I try to do something a little different than the last time I went. Just last week, I photographed this one at home, and I was so thinking about the people in California. I've got one teacher who lost his home, and I did this. It reminded me of flames, and I overlapped some flames with it. So also, I found that I need to photograph places that I love. Now, I love Charleston. I taught in Charleston for 5 years after college. And although I left Charleston, it never left me. So I photograph there every chance I get. Magnolia Plantation and Gardens is just so spectacular. If you've not visited there in spring, I highly recommend it. This is Frank DeLoach, and as I was trying to figure out a picture to take of the angel oak, I came across him and he gave me permission to photograph him and his art. Botany Bay. One time I even talked Randy into taking me up in a helicopter for Valentine's Day so I could see Charleston from above. This is my goddaughter. She was in the Corps at the Citadel. I got to go to Charleston in the rain. Lots of people, when they go to Charleston and it's raining, they're like, oh, terrible weekend. I'm like, photographing in the rain in Charleston, it's awesome. And it was. So as I get further in my journey, it's been really important for me to find meaning in the making. I had a very challenging time during COVID. I had to retire earlier than expected. I was caring for my mother for 2.5 years while she received support from hospice. It was a very hard time. And during that time, one time I just felt so overwhelmed with everything. And I just had a hard time. And I was at a hotel and I got behind the curtain and put light on myself and I took the self-portrait. And I really think that it captured that feeling. And this is a composite I made in about the same time. And my friend Chris, who I shared with you earlier, who was in the snow, he said, it doesn't even look like you because you're so happy all the time. But I do feel, I like to be happy and be positive, but this is how I felt. This is actually a profile of myself and my mother. And this is some costume jewelry. She kept a lot of things for her art. She was a collector, not a hoarder. And so this was some costume jewelry, and I made this. And on this day, I made this a year after my friend's Chris's passing. And it's just something that brought healing to me as I was making it. So I've gotten a lot into projects. Projects have been very important in my development as a photographer and just in my happiness in making things. So the first project that I really did was a year-long project I did with my mother titled Look at the Rock. And the reason I called it Look at the Rock is because she's the one who really taught me how to see. And I spent about a year photographing at her house, just things in her house, because I was afraid that my photography was taking me away from time with her. So I spent time photographing at her house, different things. These are paper dolls she designed in college. She was an artist, and photographed and put this book together. So afterwards, if anybody'd like to take some time and look at that, you're welcome to do so. And we just had a great time collaborating to photograph things at her house. So she was always into the Pantone color of the year. So this was the Pantone color of the year that year. And I went over, and this is what her desk looked like. And I would learn things as we were doing this. So we would look for things to photograph, and I found my dad's dog tags, and we put them out there. And she said, you know, your father wasn't Baptist at the time. He just didn't know how to spell Presbyterian. So I learned a lot of things. And I found these wonderful papers that she had created. And these papers she created by letting things rust on them. And the papers were just beautiful, and I arranged them. And the papers are long gone now. They disintegrated. But I'm so glad to have these photos. So I mentioned when I was teaching, I found a way to photograph every day. Teaching changed a whole lot over the course of my career. And I wanted to end my career on a happy note. So I decided I was going to photograph at school every day for the last 5 years of my career. So I did that for, it ended up only being 3.5 years because I had to retire early. But I just had such joy photographing and capturing the things that were really fabulous about teaching. And it allows me to remember the joy in my career. So home is where the art is. My mother was ill. She had COPD. And for 2.5 years, hospice supported her. She lived in my neighborhood. So she got to live in her own home until her last day. Between hospice's support and mine, she was able to stay at home and create. And so I would go over and I would photograph, and it helped me process all that was going on. It helped us connect on a different way. Of course, everybody keeps art supplies in the refrigerator, correct? And I'm just so thrilled to have these pictures. Another thing I have up here, Lenswork Magazine published a portfolio of this work, Home is Where the Art Is, in here. And these pictures I'll always cherish. I intend to create a book with these pictures. I just haven't gotten to the place where I can do a good job with that yet. When my son got married, she couldn't attend the wedding, but she made a little card for him. And she had such a good outlook. So she's got her the call button to get 911, her oxygen cord while wearing her Life is Good t-shirt. And she created every day. And sometimes she would just arrange things. So I would come over and there would just be an arrangement and I would photograph it. And I'm so thankful that I have these photographs. This is her in her studio. And she created until the very last day. So the house where she lived was the house I moved in when I was 10 years old. So the house had so many memories. So after she passed, I had to find a way to kind of say goodbye to the house. So after I had taken care of everything in the house, I went around with photographs that were taken there, and I photographed them in the place where they were taken through the years. And found this to be such a healing part of my journey. Last day leaving the house. So my last project that I've released is called Legacy. And my mom, when she was sick, she said, Mary, I don't want you to make quick decisions about what you let go of. I want you to get a storage unit. I want to put stuff in there so you can take your time. And I listened to my mom and I did what she said. And there were so many things. And so I'd go to storage and I'd get things out and I'd try and make photographs with them. Now this picture, she was very independent and she wrote down all the time I'd see her post it as she gave herself medications. But after she passed, I found all the Post-its and I was kind of overwhelmed with them. So I took this picture. And I just tried taking pictures of the things, but it wasn't really coming together as I would like. It kind of felt similar to what I'd already done before. Now you notice this rust paper from before, but I did a collage with this because I knew she had done her journals. I've got all of her journals, and I knew she had a page, something about rust. She has to have something about rust. So I found the page about rust, and as I looked at it, it made me laugh out loud because my mom taught me to fear everything in life. And when I looked at her thing, the last thing it says, before you do all this with the rust, get your tetanus shot first. So at one point, my friend Patty said, you need to stop paying for that storage. You need to get the stuff out. You need to take it home. And so I did that. Now I got as much stuff out of my house as I needed room to get this stuff in. And then I started photographing the things at home, and still it just didn't feel like it was the right thing. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. Until one day, I took some of her books up to Grandfather Mountain. And these are Reader's Digest books, and she bought them not because of what was on the inside, but because she liked the covers. They were pretty. And so I took these books and I photographed them on Grandfather Mountain. And I thought, oh yes, nature, the stuff, this is it. And so I started my project, which I call Legacy. And I've got a little book up here that you're welcome to look at if you'd like, with some of these in. So I'm just going to read the quote up here. Everyone must leave something behind when he dies, my grandfather said. A child or a book or a painting or a house or a wall built or a pair of shoes made or a garden planted. Something your hand touched some way so your soul has somewhere to go when you die. And when people look at that tree or that flower you planted, you're there. And that's a quote by Ray Bradbury. And so my project Legacy, I took these things that belonged to my mother and I placed them in beautiful places in nature. And this was another way for me to help let go of my grief. I titled this one, She Was Not a Hoarder, because she had lots of things, but it was all very tidy. Now I knew, because there's a lot of deer in my neighborhood, I knew if I just took that little deer out and waited long enough, one would come by. Now these, she had a parking pad in front of her house and she was so protective about that parking pad. There was always like signs. So after she passed, I found like a whole drawer full of signs. So I thought it would be interesting to take them up to this location I'd hiked before So these are pictures from the Legacy series. That's my great, great, great grandfather. And I got to exhibit this work at Slow Exposures in September. It's a photography festival in Concord, Georgia. And so I had the whole floor, the bottom floor of the courthouse, and was able to showcase this work of my mother. And also on allaboutphoto.com. So this quote, "One day in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful," by Rick Rubin. We create to express who we are, and where we are on our journey. I think that's so important, that you're putting yourself into your work and where you are in your journey. So I hope that you will grab your supplies, find your teachers, explore what you love, and follow your own path. And I really appreciate you allowing me to share a little bit of my path with you. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
You were saying that when you first started putting other images, that weren't there into your pictures, I think it reminds me of your mother's.
Thank you. I do. I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Yes. It keeps you steady, and especially when you're new. I think the important thing is when you're new, it makes you slow down. Because if not, you're like, okay, got that flower and that flower. But it really makes you think about what you're taking, how you're going to take it, how you're going to frame it, I think is the big importance. No. Sure. Yes. 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 There's so many things you can do with photographs now. So many things, so many wonderful companies that will help you display your work. Yes. Anything else? Yes.
Well known.
She was not, and she didn't, she started the TGK Art League. So she did that, but she was kind of private, and later she just stopped even showing stuff. She enjoyed the making. She really did. Yes. Thank you. She really was. Thank
My question. Just taking pictures with your phone, is that a terrible thing to do, or is that acceptable? Like,
Absolutely.
take photographs, but we wonder. I'm not into all the camera, and I don't have. Maybe I'll find a gold coin. But like, how do you know if you should pursue that or not? Just play around with your phone.
I had work exhibited in Barcelona, and one of the photographers who was there had done everything, photographing and processing, on her phone. She had nothing else. And I thought, wow, that would be a lot easier to carry. So, I think you use the tool that feels right. So.
The next time you want to answer, I'm really go to get But the second thing, I want to know how you're not actually developing your pictures, so you send them all off.
Oh, I am. I do all my stuff. I'm not a film photographer, so I don't do the developer. I'm digital. I do send mine off to get printed by somebody else. I do have a printer, so I'm learning that. That's a whole nother art form, printing my own work. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was wonderful. Very inspiring. I do need your help. We have 3 door prizes that we're going to give out to our members tonight. And so I have a list here from 2 to 43, and I'd like you to pick 3 numbers, and you can just do it one at a time. So
Okay. 16.
number 16 is Harold Blackwood.
Yes. That happened pretty cool. Okay, another?
41.
41, Cathy Schwalm. Okay, one more.
3.
Amy Thompson. I want you all to notice that on these chairs over here in the back, there are some free items from, yes, what's your name again? Deborah. So if you'd like to look over there and see if there's anything, art supplies that you'd like to take home with you tonight, then those are there. I don't think there's anything else, is there? Okay, thank you so much for coming. I hope you're inspired to go and create. See you next time.